lot of New Ages today try to, want to push away the negative circumstances or the negative incarnations, or push away that negative duality of ourselves. And I'm saying to you, you got to embrace that. It is through the negative aspects that have brought you here that's allowed you to grow, and you want to understand the totality of your being. And so you're not going to be positive all the time. You don't learn that way from one singular approach to things. You learn from duality. You learn from the contrast, from the yin and the yang. And we have that on the soul level, as well as we have that on the physical level too. So it's time to stop downing yourself when you're being negative. It's time to stop trying to disassociate yourself when you're having a negative reflection. It's time to elaborate and expand on that duality and to embrace that. It is necessary. If all it is, the creator that we call source, or some call God, if that creator did not, and that intelligence didn't want it to occur, it wouldn't occur. So if all the negativity in that aspect of the negative sides of our duality is here and it continues to exist, it's because it needs to. And a lot of spiritualists don't want to embrace that because they think they're just preaching about it's okay to be bad, it's okay to be negative. What I'm saying, it's okay to grow. It's okay to grow. That is what we're playing here with. And a lot of times people are very afraid to embrace duality because that means that they're condoning, say, murderers or people who do very treacherous things in our world. And I say, no, you don't know their karmic path. You don't know their karmic journey, as well as many don't know your karmic path and your karmic journey and where you're at. So there's so much, I would say, a spectrum of individuals with so many different karmic paths and karmic lessons that they have to have that path and road to explore and to I would say, learn in this dense world too. Doesn't mean you have to associate with it or agree with it, but you have to accept it. That's what this world is about. Density, contrast, polarity, right? Separation, because in spirit, there is no separation. But the illusion of separation is in this dense world, but that's how we learn, is that duality. And so it's really important to understand that even an aspect of duality when it comes to your spiritual being in a physical body, that's another aspect of duality. Your spiritual being and your physical being, and embracing the two. The two got to be in sync as well. And so the moment you try to disassociate yourself from any type of negative thought or any type of negative aspect that you've experienced, then you're actually condemning your whole life experience. You're condemning the nature of the world you're living in and the experience that you've chose to live in. So again, it's not about, what you're being positive or negative about. It's about the growth and understanding about your evolution. And the more upset you get in circumstances, you become more knowledgeable about what you're depriving yourself of. And that gives you more insight into what you need. Without that, you would have no guidance on this, right? And so it's important for now the spiritual communities to start embracing both aspects instead of separating the two aspects. There's something within our human species we don't like to include all that. We're always this or that. We're never this and that, and that's a very limiting perspective to have as human beings. So it's very important that we do say this and that. We're like Republican or Democrat, Walmart versus Target. Like it's always a this or that separating type of mentality. But if you really want to become spiritual, if you guys are really living a spiritual life, you will start saying it's this and that. You'll be inclusive and understanding it's not either or, it is both. And of course, then you can find your direction through such, because we all have preferable lives that we're trying to live through our karmic lessons. Okay, and so direction is different. Going in direction is not picking one between the other. It's just allowing yourself to maneuver in the way you want to grow. So embrace the duality. Embrace those negative aspects that come up, because this is one thing that the spiritual communities always say. They always say, "What you resist persists." Right? Don't they say that? So if you're constantly resisting your negative thoughts, what's going to persist then with their mentality? More negative thoughts, right? So let's use a New Age perspective to make a point to this. Stop resisting. If you want to say fuck off to someone, say it. Of course, in time, you'll have a better way to finesse that type of language and find a better way of, disconnect yourself from toxic relationships. But, so many people are just like, oh, but I don't want to hurt them. And, I'm going to worry about them if I stop being their friends or being in a relationship. I'm just scared about what's going to happen with them. That's not your responsibility. But deep down inside, your soul's trying to say, fuck off. And your soul is going to push against that resistance of detachment. right? So when you embrace that, and your modality of life might mean that you have to learn how to say fuck off to people. That might be your modality of learning. But of course, once you allow your soul to push against and learn to say no, the more you become, I would say, well versed in that, your intellect and your approach would be more, I would say, have more finesse behind it, would have more ease behind it, would have more of a graciousness behind it, right? You'll learn that in time. Again, we're here to grow and learn, so the whole point is understanding what you have to do, and we'll start as children at first and be very and then we'll elevate, become more wise about our approaches and more conscious about our approaches, and changing it to be able to be, of course, as we mature, we'll change our responses to certain things. But when you're resisting the negative all the time, you ain't gonna learn that. When you're resisting the negative all the time, you're gonna have a one filtered approach and a very self-condemning life in that type of approach. And that is not going to be very healing for you. It's not going to be very, I would say, beneficial in your growth. And it's going to put more pressure on you because you're never being positive all the time. I have to think positive. I'm just having these negative thoughts. That in itself is negative. That in itself, if you're trying to be positive all the time, is negative. And I think they're calling it now toxic positivity. Which, I mean, there's something behind that. I've kind of like turned my nose up all these identity politics phrases, but there's something to be said about that. So embrace your duality. If you're having a moment of frustration, that is part of you too. If you're having a moment of anger, that is part of you too. Don't resist it. Nurture it so it can grow. There's all these pieces of your soul that are childlike. And we have to nurture those childlike qualities in order to evolve those qualities and to mature them so we as a being in totality grow. All right? That's how it's really working. We're very multidimensional that way, and that is how it's working deep within. But, if you're falling for this two-dimensional spiritual hogwash bullshit, you're going to stay stuck. And you're going to be sitting there trying to imagine everything that you want, nothing's happening, and condemn yourself more. And talking to a universe when you're actually supposed to be commanding the universe. That's another thing that you have to understand, too, in this duality, is that the universe is a reflection. It's a mechanism that's reflecting to you your signals. So when you're asking the universe for something, you're taking your power away. You're supposed to command to the universe. That's biblical, actually. You don't ask the universe, you command it. You tell it what needs to be done. What we should be associating with is spirit. And that is another thing that we have to understand more about duality is, we're physical. We need to be relying on spirit. Spiritual entities, spiritual archetypes, angelic archetypes, whatever your source is, your spirit guides, ancestry, whatever you choose to be such, get involved into your spiritual support and your spiritual team. Because that's where you can start building relationships and having, relationships behind you that can help alter this physical reality in the way you need to, provided that you're learning and growing from your karmic lessons. Okay? So again, embrace both. And once you do, then the bigger picture becomes very clear to you, and you become less judgmental and more in tune to your soul purpose and your soul evolution.